no rest, there's no peace. It's one kidnapping victim after another. As the mind is hijacked, the attention is catapulted off from one matter to another. Compulsively, it's not a matter of free choice. We don't choose to do it. That sucks. But it's worse than that. I think now this is serious. I mean, that's serious. But it's worse than that. Then there's the delusional aspect to it. And that is the thoughts come up, and we actually take them seriously. Very frequently, we actually think this is a full and accurate portrayal of whatever I'm thinking about. I got it right. That image, that actually is a snapshot of what's really going on. That never happens. Thoughts aren't, I would say this is a big principle you might want to chew on. Whatever we think about anything, whatever thought comes up, it is never the complete and accurate portrayal of what's going on. Ever. We may get something right. I look over at you and then I think, who is this person over on my left? It's a man. I got that right. I'm sure it's not a woman, I can tell. So I got that part right. I mean, your gender I got right. But whatever I should think about you, I could think about you for 100 years. Whatever thought comes up about you, it will never be the complete and accurate. Complete. It'll never tell the whole story. It'll never capture you. And it will never capture anything. Thought always gets slivers. Thought never captures any more than a partial story, an aspect. And that's in the best of times. And what's very easy to do is get a sliver that may be true, some news item, and then make the sliver the whole story. And that's delusional. But all too often we don't even get a sliver. What's concocted is complete fabrication, made out of thin air, and when we think that's the portrayal of reality, we got it right. Whereas in fact, it's hardly even inspired by true events. It's like one of those movies that has one grain of truth and then 2 hours of sheer fiction, based on true events though. That is, there was a year 2008. That did happen, yeah. And people lived at that time. And so there is the story. It's kind of sad, isn't it? Obsessive, compulsive, delusional disorder. And one would think, well, my goodness, if there are people like that, let's quarantine them, make sure it doesn't catch. It might be infectious. But of course, that's not the case. So the type of practices we're looking into this week are really specifically designed to address each of those aspects. And that is, we don't always want to be silent. This is not an idea of, I was speaking with, I would let just a weekend, or no, it was a one-day seminar of a bunch of psychiatrists in London about a month ago. And there was one very bright psychiatrist, a very well-informed, bright group. And one psychiatrist said, when he'd heard about me talking about developing this ability, he said, isn't that a kind of an intellectual tyranny, what you're proposing here? An intellectual tyranny, like we're inviting the Gestapo in to silence the mind. And I said, no, it's just having the choice to be silent when you want to. I'm not suggesting we shouldn't have a time just to daydream, or to be creative, or just to let the free flow. Why not? But that we never have the option, that's the tyranny. The mind tyrannizes us, not even giving us a choice about whether there will or will not be an obsessive flow, whether we compulsively latch onto and are carried away by their thoughts or not, and whether we actually regard semi-consciously the thoughts to be an accurate and complete portrayal of what's going on. That's where the real tyranny. We are the tyrannized, we're not the tyrannizers. And so I'm not suggesting that we turn around and tyrannize the mind. That sounds pretty nasty. But having some freedom of choice. And that is when you'd like to be quiet while still be conscious, that's an option. If you'd like to simply allow the mind to go into free flow, but have the freedom not to be carried away by every thought that comes up. Just have this spatial awareness and be aware of images, thoughts, memories, emotions. Say, how interesting to have a mind. It's quite cacophonous, but nevertheless, it's interesting. And that's observing the obsessive flow, but not being compulsively caught up in it. It's really like watching television and thinking that everything you see on the television screen is completely true, and it's taking place right now in front of you. Like that is a window. And, like kids watch television that way, I think, sometimes. Right. Or I remember, was it a Jim Carrey movie a long time ago where every advertisement that came up, he just had to follow it? Buy this now. Oh, he buys now. And everything, everything is true. This will cure all, good, like that. So not having that, and so it's like, as we get into the settling the mind on Thursday, I'll probably mention then that it's like watching the television while somebody else has the remote. and they like to channel surf. Okay. Well, at least you just get to watch what's coming up, but you don't take everything seriously, and you don't get snagged into the drama of every advertisement, soap opera, and so forth and so on. You're just watching television, right? So, and then the delusional aspect, and that is, how about this for freedom? And that is some delusional thought comes up. My good friend and very esteemed colleague, Paul Ekman, the psychologist, he refers to this as the refractory period, where the mind scrunches down, the mind collapses under the total domination of one emotion, and then spins off these ridiculous yarns and can't see outside of them. Now we'll return to this, but it's called the refractory period, when for a short period we enter into a state that really has to be called insane, just because it's unhinged from reality. But we're captivated. He has this phrase, I love it. We're in the grip of an emotion. It's like it's got us by the short hairs or by the jugular, for a short time. And for a while, we just can't think straight because we can't engage with any aspect of reality that doesn't correspond to the emotion that's got us in its grip, right? That's the delusional component, where we actually take seriously what's coming up. Now, we'll return to that later on. So these forms of meditation, I would say this is deep therapy. And that is the mindfulness of breathing is gently, gradually giving us the ability to be quiet when we want to. It's just that. And clear, attentive, present, right? Mindfulness of breathing. That's a big step in the right direction of sanity. The settling the mind in its natural state, then we throttle back and let the mind go into free flow, literally free association. But we're not just daydreaming. We can do that without coming to a meditation retreat. We allow the mind to go into free flow, but with this spaciousness, this Teflon awareness. We simply attend to whatever's arising in the space, but without being carried away by it. So the excessive flow, we allow it to flow, just like turning on the faucet and say, oh, there it goes, but not being, how do you say, flushed down the drain, and just being aware of it. So the compulsive aspect is gone. The flow is happening, but we're not being snagged, jerked around, abducted from moment to moment. And then the delusional quality, that's where the wisdom really comes in. And that is to so develop this meta-awareness, this meta-cognition, so to refine this sixth mode of perception, which is the only direct access we have to our minds, to actually be aware of the thoughts, the expectations, the conclusions drawn in the mind, and to be aware of them, these assertions we make about other people, these internal portrayals we make about people, situations, and so forth, and seeing them come up, and then looking at them, and recognizing, oh, that's 100% delusional. Oh, that one got a sliver. Oh, that one, half and half. That one, complete bullshit, And just recognizing them with clarity, what's coming up. So to be able to distinguish between fiction and complete nonfiction, and no, complete nonfiction, at least to get something right. So that's what these practices are for. So I think we don't have to be spiritual, we don't have to believe in reincarnation or what have you, to think this might be a good idea. And frankly, a lot of the teachings of the Buddha, quite frankly, are intended to make us really, dissatisfied with mere normality.